Bogo from National Police Service Commission.
Good morning, Richard Lekenya, Deputy Director, Internal Security.
Good morning, Charles Ojori, National Youth Service.
Good morning all. My name is Dr. John Mwangi, Secretary Kenya School Board of Leadership.
Good morning, my name is Kennedy Nyaim, Secretary, Border Management, Interior. Thank you.
Good morning, Nicholas Makoha, representing DGNYS.
Good morning, everyone. Richard Wambua, Council Member, National Youth Service.
Good morning, all. Wambua Kenya Prisons.
Good morning, Mugare Zena, Kenya News Agency.
Good morning, Solomon Lepere, Director, Legal National Police Service.
Good morning, Peter Karanja, Internal Security.
Good morning, Rosemary Kuran, representing the Inspector General. Thank you.
Good morning, Christabel Adhiambo, representing the Secretary, Peace Building and Disaster Response.
Good morning, my name is Jane Sawanda from United Nations Development Program.
Good morning, my name is Violet Chasa, representing the County Officer, National Police Service.
Good morning, my name is Zoe from the British High Commission.
Good morning, Mohammed Al-Atrebi from the Embassy of Egypt.
Good morning, Arina Nakshi from the European Union Delegation to Kenya.
Good morning, I'm Harriet Bell, also British High Commission.
Good morning, I'm Jackie Bogo from Greenland Program.
Good morning, my name is Victor Minga from the Office of the Attorney General.
Good morning, my name is Opondo Vincent from National Crime Research Center.
Good morning, my name is John Muteti, Director of representing the CEO.
Good morning, my name is Collins Okendi from the Ministry of Interior.
Good morning, my name is Humphrey Young from the State Department for Operational Services.
Good morning, Rogers Maridi, Minister of Interior.
Thank you very much. Our seniors at the high table will introduce themselves when they'll be speaking. So I think now we are clear who is in the room, and we are clear there's no stranger in the room, so you are most welcome. We now go straight to introducing our seniors on the, is it high table? I see like they're the same level. But for this purpose, we treat it as high and request our seniors to come and say a few words as we continue with this program. I want to start by welcoming Dr. Salome Mohia Biako, CBS, who is also our Principal Secretary for Correctional Services. Karibu, Madam PS.
The Principal Secretary, Internal Security and National Administration, Dr. Raymond Domolo, Principal Solicitor General, Honorable Shadrach Mose, Chairman, National Police Service Commission, Mr. Elliot Kinuthia, Inspector General of National Police Service, Engineer Japheth Kome, Commissioner General of Prisons, Brigadier Retired John Warioba, Secretary, Administration, Probation, Secretary, Probation and Aftercare Service, Dr. Christine Obondi, Director General, Kenya Coast Guard Service, Director General, National Youth Service, Chairman of IPOA, Ms. Anne McCurry, Chairman, National Cohesion and Integration Commission, Reverend Samuel Kobia, National Youth Service Council, CEO, National Police Service Commission, Director, CEO, IPOA, Independent Policing Oversight Authority, Mr. Elema Halake, Acting CEO, National Cohesion and Integration Commission, Mr. Harrison Karaoke, our very valuable development partners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is an honor to join you this morning for yet another Development Partners Roundtable following the successful Roundtable held on 26th of February 2024 at Serena Hotel. I note with appreciation that I am joining a team that is committed to ensuring that the ongoing reforms in the security sector and the wider public sector are implemented. Ladies and gentlemen, I therefore wish at the onset to express my heartfelt gratitude to all of you, and particularly to our development partners, for finding time out of your demanding schedule to attend this roundtable. Your presence here today is a demonstration and a testament to your commitment and support to the ongoing reforms agenda. I have no doubt that our continuous engagement will sustain the gains made thus far and accelerate the ongoing reforms journey. The State Department for Correctional Services that I oversee comprises the Kenya Prison Service, Probation and Aftercare Service, and the General Administration. It sits at the core of our national security and the wider criminal justice sector architecture. It contributes to community safety through humane containment of offenders and by ensuring that the offenders are rehabilitated, reformed, and reintegrated back to the society. In implementing this broad mandate, the department requires the input of both state and non-state actors. This is why it is pleasing to note that a number of development partners have joined the expressed willingness to work with us as we champion the ongoing reforms. Particularly, we acknowledge the support accorded by our very valuable partners in the ongoing development of the National Correctional Service Policy and the draft Kenya Correctional Service Bill following the gazettement of the Technical Committee by the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Interior and National Administration, Professor Kithure Kindiki. Ladies and gentlemen, as we present to you the strategic framework for implementation of reforms in the National Police Service, Kenya Prisons, and the National Youth Service, I am appreciative of the strides made by the Ministerial Technical Committee. The enormous strides made thus far sets the pace for the improvement of the terms and conditions of service, general welfare, and human capital management and development of our officers. Equally, and of essence, is sustaining the policy, legal, and administrative reforms and as envisaged by the Constitution of Kenya 2010. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, on my own behalf and that of the State Department, I reiterate our commitment to a coordinated and cohesive correctional services serving the people of Kenya. I request all our development partners to support us in the implementation of the priorities outlined in the strategic framework that we are sharing here today. Thank you all, and God bless the work of your hands. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Madam PS, Correctional Services. There's one person who did not introduce himself, and it was myself. I'm Jenga Miri, Principal Administrative Secretary for Internal Security. Now, I want to invite our Senior Solicitor General, Mr. Shadrach Mose, to make a few remarks. Bwana SG, karibu.
Good morning, all. Thank you so much. My name is Shadrach Mose, the Solicitor General of the Republic of Kenya. First and foremost, I want to say that it is indeed a great pleasure for all of us united here this morning for an extremely worthy cause. The reforms that have taken place, that have been ongoing in the police service, in the National Youth Service, and in the correctional services is indeed a milestone in our development agenda as a country. So as our development partners today, we want to invite you to continue supporting our agenda as a country. And as the Solicitor General present here, I want to tell you that the State Law Office is indeed in sync with the reforms that are taking place. We are here to assure our development partners that we're going to provide the necessary legal, institutional reform support in terms of the legislations, the necessary bills that will be required, the necessary support in terms of the technical legal advice that we require at each and every stage. And my colleague PSS, PS Interior, PS Correctional Services, and our development partners just get one assurance that the Attorney General, who is the principal legal advisor of the government, and the Solicitor General, who is the principal assistant, and all the colleagues who are here. I know I have seen my colleagues from all the departments here in this hall. We have our technical advisors in each and every sector. And that shows that we are indeed set and determined to work together, and also ensure that at the end of the day, we develop and ensure that we have the right legal framework in place. I want to also share that as a country, Kenya, we are in an environment where we are the leaders in terms of reforms in very many sectors. So this one, as we develop the various reforms and ensure that we are in sync, I want to assure you that the legal support is critical and is necessary. Lastly, Chair, PS Interior, Kenya is an island of peace in a sea of turbulence. The region requires our serious support in terms of ensuring that we entrench the reforms in the police service, we entrench reforms in our correctional services, we entrench reforms in the National Youth Service, and these are security operators that will ensure that we continue to be an island, we continue to be a beacon of peace, and as a result, this would attract what we call development in the region, development in Africa, development in the world. And therefore, we want to assure you, as I conclude, that the necessary legislations, the necessary frameworks that will be required, we will be able to expedite them with zeal. Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you very much, our Solicitor General, Mr. Shadrach Mose. And I want to invite Mr. Anthony Ngorano, Resident Representative, United Nations Development Program. Karibu, Bwana Ngorano.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Anthony Gororano. I'm here both in my capacity as UNDP resident representative, but I'm also here speaking on behalf of my colleague Stephen Jackson, the UN resident coordinator, and the various members of the UN family I see here before me. Mine will be very brief, just in interest of this really packed but also very, very important program. And so my first is to really extend congratulations to the government of Kenya in general and the state departments involved in particular, first and foremost for having in a very short span of time come up with this strategic framework that's going to be discussed today. So really hongera sana for this. A number of other milestones have led up to and contributed to this that I want to note. Not least of which the interagency retreat in Mombasa that I know brought both the government and a number of partners together. That was, I think, really critical in crystallizing the essence of the strategic framework. Secondly, the setting up of the reform unit, really significant kudos on this. I believe it's going to be located in Vigilance House and will, more importantly, provide substantive, strategic, and operational support to the reform process. And we hope, as UNDP and the UN, that we can work together smoothly to ensure that we really do reflect international, regional, and national best practice through this. Thirdly, the conducting of the first National Steering Committee meeting that I understand took place yesterday. So a really major milestone in ensuring a whole of government approach. And lastly, the legislative review process that I know is ongoing. I know the drafters and others, and I look at you, Mr. Solicitor General, your team are pushing on this really pivotal piece of this reform. And so in conclusion, I just wanted to highlight really what I've called the 3 C's, just in terms of principles to continue guiding us both as international but as national partners. The first is the importance of ensuring that we continue with a coordinated approach, right? So we've got very many actors with sometimes overlapping and interlinked roles and responsibilities. And I think under the leadership at a strategic political level of the National Steering Committee, but then at the operational level of the reform unit, I think we do still have some work on that, but I'm confident under the leadership of the PSs, we will make good ground. So coordinated approach. The second C speaks to coherence in the mobilization and deployment of both national and international resources, human and financial. This is particularly important as we seek to close the gap, the funding gap. I think the first step is to make do with what we already have as a means of signaling to interested partners, a number of whom are in the room, that this is really a critically important investment. Lastly, and all of you in the room who have engaged in the security sector reform space will attest that at the best of times, this is a long and difficult journey. And so really my final plea is that we be very mindful that this effort is going to require continued momentum, right? And I think it's important just in terms of this conversation that we do continue to invest our time, but also that I think we engage in a process of continuous learning, because I think that at the end of the day makes the difference. Thank you very much. Asanteni sana. Congratulations once again.
Thank you very much, Anthony, for that very good speech. Let me also recognize one of our colleagues who has joined us, Mr. Halake, the CEO for IPOA. I think this is very helpful. Karibu. Next, I want to invite His Excellency, High Commissioner Neil Wigan from the United Kingdom. Karibu.
Your Excellencies, the PSs and the Solicitor General, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. So first I'd like to explicitly thank PS Omolo for his commitment to driving this really important agenda and for bringing development partners here together today. The UK is a very strong supporter of the police reform agenda, and we really welcome the focus on the implementation of the Moraga Police Reform Task Force. We also strongly welcome the Solicitor General's commitment to providing that broader support to this important agenda, which he set out so clearly. And I think, as my colleague Tony said, we really commend the progress which has been made in the short period since our last meeting with international partners to develop the strategic framework which will now govern and prioritise the police reform agenda. Again, as Tony said, the lessons from police reform elsewhere are given the complexity of the issue, the importance of maintaining the momentum which we have seen so far. And again, commend the PS's personal focus on accountability in really driving this agenda forward. And we believe that that will be critical in the future. The UK has been consulting closely with our colleagues at the Ministry of Interior. So I'm pleased to be able to say today that through our programme Reinvent, where we have a representative here today, we will be supporting pillars 1, 2 and 4 of the strategic framework. So that means that we will be working on strengthening internal and external oversight and accountability and the prevention of corruption in the police service through our support to the Internal Affairs Unit of the MPS and also to IPOA, and we're delighted to see IPOA here today. Secondly, development of the Ministry's internal governance framework to implement the reforms, including support of the National Steering Committee on Police Reforms. We will be providing technical support to the Ministry in the development of tracking tools for monitoring and evaluating the reforms. Under Pillar 4, modernisation and capacity development of police services through technical support, we will be providing technical support to selected police stations to improve service delivery, for example, through the Polycare programme. Overall, the UK will continue to support this work and remain closely engaged in a spirit of partnership with the Ministry of Interior. Thank you all very much, and we look forward to hearing an update on progress today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Balozi. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's my humble pleasure to invite the driver of this process, who is none other than Dr. Raymond Omolo, our PS for Internal Security and National Administration. Karibu sir.
Thank you, Mr. Njenga. Now, my PS colleague, Dr. Salome Bianco, the Solicitor General, the Honorable Shadrach Mose, His Excellency the British High Commissioner to Kenya, Neil, our friend Sir Anthony, the resident representative for UNDP, and a number of all our important development partners here present and also represented. I can see so many friends, Rana, Madeline, our friend Mark from IDLO, representative from the Egyptian Embassy, and a number of other private sector players. The different heads of various agencies in government. We have the chair of IPOA in the House. We have the representative of the Inspector General of Police. We have the Commissioner General of the Kenya Prison Service, and the leadership in the other state departments, notably the State Department for Public Service, that is headed by my PS colleague, Amos Garecha, who is out of town, but is ably represented. Colleagues and friends, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning once again. I think today is one of my very happy moments that after a long conversation, we are at a point where we have a strategic framework which we will be rolling out going forward. Of course, part of what is captured in that strategic framework has already started being rolled out. And I want to take this moment to appreciate all of you for the support, for the discussions we've had, for the input. And that support has been in terms of technical advice, it's been in terms of actual financial resources, and engagement and interactions that we have had over this journey. Most notably with the UK Embassy, of course, through Reinvent, and the UNDP, and a number of other partners that, for lack of adequate time, I don't have to go into the specifics to mention. Now, the reform process and the reform journey within the National Police Service, the Kenya Prison Service, and the NYS is very key in the delivery of the administration of President Ruto to the country. And this was one of the commitments that His Excellency the President made, one when he was looking for votes, and one of the first undertakings upon assuming office was to set up the Maraga Task Force within the first 100 days to look at how to address the concerns that had bedeviled the services over the years. And that culminated in the presentation of those recommendations to His Excellency the President way back in November last year. And upon receiving those recommendations, the President was very clear on what he wanted us to do and gave us marching orders. And at some point, I've always imagined or actually believed that we are behind schedule with the implementations of those recommendations. But then these recommendations cut across various services, and it involves the input from a number of agencies. And that has meant that there has been a lot of back and forth in terms of consultations, in terms of even agreeing on how to take those recommendations forward. Notably, we have benefited from the input from a number of independent institutions, starting with IPOA. We have had engagements with the Salaries and Remunerations Commission. We've had engagements with the Public Service Commission and a number of other agencies. And in the process, of course, we've also had to engage consultants, as well as go back to members of the task force that actually gave us these beautiful recommendations. Now, it's worth noting that it's the first time that we are having a strategic framework that integrates 3 discipline services. And this strategic framework has been crafted to guide the reform process. And it's not the first time that we are trying to deal or address hard reforms within these services. And on previous occasions, we've made 2 steps ahead and 1 step backwards. So there have always been challenges. And in coming up with this strategic framework, we were alive to some of those challenges. And we were trying to see how best do we not fall into the trap of previous efforts that have yielded much results, but not to the level that we would expect as a country. Now, as a ministry, we remain committed to the full implementation of these reforms. And it is one of the key deliverables that we will be making, amongst many other deliverables. And with those, I would want to specifically move into some of the key highlights of what is captured in the strategic framework. But first, to look at what were some of the recommendations that emanated from the Maraga Task Force. And it's worth noting that cumulatively, we had a total of 598 recommendations spread across the 3 services. The bulk of them, of course, within the National Police Service, which is a total of 271 recommendations. Then we had another 210 recommendations within the National Youth Service and 117 recommendations within the prison service. Now, in terms of just the categorization, because when we looked at all those recommendations, it became obvious that a number of those recommendations just needed administrative action without the necessity to look for resources to do them. And that constituted 36%, or 221 out of the 598 recommendations. Then there were recommendations constituting 29%, a total of 177 spread across the 3 services that requires financial injection for purposes of implementing them. But then we do not necessarily need to make any changes to the policy or legislations that are aligned to those recommendations. And then there was an equivalent number or percentage of recommendations that require policy or legislative actions. And lastly, just 4% or 22 out of the 598 recommendations that would require further consultations and policy guidance. So out of all the many recommendations, we were able to isolate 22 that either there was a very strong feeling within the services or within the agencies that needed to be deliberated on further. Those we were able to isolate, and we are already in the process of seeking policy guidance or direction with regards to those recommendations. And maybe just to understand the quantum of what we are looking at in terms of resources to be able to fully implement all these nearly 600 recommendations, is that we are looking at an investment of about 108 billion Kenya shillings over the 4-year period. That is 2024 to 2028. The good news is that already those investments, or part of that investment, is already being realized or is already being put in motion as we speak. Now, the strategic framework process in terms of its development began in February, and I think that was the time we had the last roundtable with yourselves as partners, and we got the go-ahead to begin work on it, and we had hoped that we would come back to you much earlier, but nonetheless it's taken us close to 4 months to realize that. But as I've mentioned, some of the bottlenecks that we've had to deal with to get to this place. And I've also mentioned that it focuses on an integrated approach to be able to address some of the priorities within the reforms that we expect to undertake. And it's taken into account a number of existing legislations or policy frameworks, both locally and internationally. So it has benefited from a lot of robust engagement. Now, within that strategic framework, there are 4 priority areas or key results areas of focus. And I like the presentation by Balozi Neil, that as an embassy or as a high commission, you've been able to apply your mind to the 4 strategic focus areas, and you are clear on the various levels of interventions that your input is needed in. So the first area of focus is with regards to leadership, oversight, and accountability. The second part, or the second link to the 4 strategic areas, is on institutional capacity development, and the third is on human resource management and development, and the last and fourth component is on operational preparedness and logistical capacity. And as you interact with the full details within that strategic framework, you'll be able to appreciate what goes into each of those specific 4 areas and the expected outcomes of from those strategic interventions. Then the other component within the strategic framework is with regards to how we will implement the strategic framework in the context of the coordination. So we have the National Steering Committee, and we did have it was the second, if not third steering committee meeting 2 days ago, which brings together the various accounting officers within all that are in charge of the services and the heads of the agencies that are concerned. Then there is an interagency coordination committee just below the National Steering Committee. And then below the interagency coordination committee are the departmental technical committees from each of the 3 services. And below those departmental technical committees are the implementation teams. So in terms of the composition of the steering committee, it speaks to the membership, which is what I've just alluded to. The heads of the various agencies, the accounting officers are responsible for each of the services, as well as the State Department. Now, in the order of things, I did indicate that we were able to isolate the recommendations into 4 clusters. And the first cluster was a set of recommendations that largely or only required administrative action without the need for any financial outlay or input. And as we speak today, there's been a lot of progress in that particular space. And in terms of implementation, we have an overall output of 51% in that cluster of recommendations, with the biggest input or success being registered by the National Youth Service at about 65%, followed by the KPS and NPS. And we have a target of end of June to be able to be done with the first set of recommendations. So we'll be constantly keeping everybody abreast and following up and supporting the various services to ensure that that is achieved. Then there are recommendations that require policy or legislative actions. And again, a lot of progress has been registered in that particular aspect, starting with the State Department for Correctional Services, with a lot of focus on the Kenya Prison Service, amongst other departments within the Correctional Service, State Department. And we have since had the technical committee gazetted so that then they're able to look into a number of those policy and legislative documents. We are also actively engaging the Kenya Law Reform Commission to support with the drafting, as well as the State Law Office headed by my brother, the Solicitor General. And this is just geared towards ensuring that we quickly have the drafts out. We take them through the requisite public participation process, and eventually we will be able to get them passed into laws or adopted as policies, which will guide our operations. So, in a nutshell, that is the broad overview of what we have in the context of the strategic framework, and what then we are asking all of you as our partners and of course colleagues within government and various agencies is that beyond applying our minds, we are clear on the 4 strategic areas, and we are basically have begun the work, and we need to progress so that then by the time we get to the year 2028, we can look back and say that we walked this journey and we were able to transform the 3 services, and the net effect of that is that the Kenyan citizen will be happy and proud of what the 3 services are doing in support of the realization of His Excellency the President's objective in transforming this country. With those, I want to stop there, and I think I will take it back to my colleague, but we now have an idea of what we are talking about, and each of us then can be able to see which specific component out of those 4 key focus areas where we can be able to intervene and engage towards the realization of these reforms. Thank you. So if you look at your program, the next session is basically to have interventions or interactions from the plenary, and in no any particular order. Of course, a lot of preference will be to our development partners in terms of just feedback or interventions based on that. I'm sure we have some microphones around. Anyone who wants to have a first go? So there's one hand there. Let me just see the first set of 4 hands. And the second hand there. Number 3.
So our development partners know that the NYS is also existing, and you are free to visit NYS, see what NYS is doing for this nation. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, PS and Jambo. The British High Commission has been investing in support to reform in the police service for about a decade, and it's really wonderful to see everybody here today with such commitment to implementation of the reforms set out in the task force, which was a really, really thorough review of the process so far. So we're delighted to see the commitment that everybody here is making, and for us the issues of accountability really remain at the heart of the reforms needed in the police service. So it's great to see IPOA here, and that's why we're putting our support also over time behind internal affairs, and just to commend everyone for their commitment. Thank you.
Thank you. Our friend from next to, yeah. Probably mind introducing yourself again?
Thank you, Excellency PS. I'm Mohammed from the Embassy of Egypt, and we're looking forward to being more on the areas of the key areas in details and what Egypt can provide under each deliverable, and we are ready to provide support once it's clear for us the details of each area. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, let's have the microphone here.
Good morning again. From the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, I think that it's just echoing again the key importance of oversight and accountability. And I think that this is an area where we have been working with IPOA, with IAU, we're committed to continue this. I think also it was just a question of where some of the training fell within the structures, whether it fell under the development or where, because I think that this is also where we've already been discussing with the National Police Service some of the more systematic cooperation on training. So that's just a question.
Thank you. Rama?
Thank you so much for the small ambush, but I think that I take from this a lot of inspiration, honestly, because we're engaged with your ministry, Your Excellency, on a very exciting process on the peace building review and looking at prevention within Kenya. And we've reached the stage where we're ready to prepare now the implementation framework for the report which His Excellency has endorsed. And we take a lot of inspiration from this, and we would like to borrow a lot from it and learn from the momentum and commitment of the whole government approach, because we need to also ensure that whatever is successful and has been successful to get us to this level, that gets us to the other level. And on behalf of Stephen, I know the representative is our second boss, Tony here. I want to assure you of the commitment of the UN in general as a system to stand behind all the 4 pillars that you stated today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And on the table behind. Yes.
Thank you, Bana PS. Ivana from UNHCR,
Yes.
UN Refugee Agency again.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to express our commitment to continue with the Security Partnership Project, which I'm sure you are aware has been supporting the security in the border areas where Kenya has been so generously hosting refugees since 2011. Through support for the deployment of close to 800 police officers, various infrastructure support, and so on and so forth. And together with our colleagues from the Office of the High Commission for Human Rights, obviously we will continue also with the training and capacity building activities. So we are with you to go pamoja.
Asante sana. Then Mark Idealo.
Thank you very much, PS. This is Friday, though. We're very pleased to be working with the government of Kenya and other partners to implement Pillar 4 reforms, in particular the legal reforms for the correctional facilities. And we, as well as others, echo the strong words of encouragement on this reform agenda and the initiative you're undertaking. We're very pleased to be working with you. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to hear my colleagues as well. So, Sally?
I think I want to stand. So thank you very much. I've had a few rejoinders and responses from the development partners. And I want to reiterate that the correctional services deals with offenders, and we are at the tail end of the criminal justice system. Once persons are arrested by my colleague, then they are taken through the justice system by some of the colleagues here. They are eventually brought to us, and we contain all sorts. We contain murderers, sexual offenders, terrorists, all sorts of offenders. And very often, our mandate, which is safe containment, safe and humane containment, this mandate, very often, we have to implement it for a very long time. And I want you to visualize having a difficult child, that you have to look after this difficult child for a while. We in correctional services have to deal with difficult children, and particularly adults, 63,000 of them. That's an onerous task. And because it is an onerous task, and it takes a very long time, because some of these offenders are there for life. Approximately 5,000 to 10,000 of them are long-termers. They're incarcerated for 10 years to almost 20 years. It is a very, very difficult job. And very often I tell my officers that I sincerely appreciate the work that they do. it is a very difficult job. And so I have had a lot of development partners talking about the support they give to the National Police and NYS and IPOA, and I'm very thankful for that, because as His Excellency has pointed out, we are adopting a whole of government approach. But I would also encourage you to come on board, more of you to come on board to help us with the reforms we are engaging in correctional services. Because we are the ones who contain these people for long periods of time, day in, day out, 24/7. We feed them, we clothe them, we wash them, we make sure that they live in inhumane conditions. We try to conform with Article 53 of the Constitution, and in general, Chapter 1 of the whole Constitution, and it's very difficult because we are always resource constrained. And I would challenge you, development partners, not only to visit our institutions, and I'm very happy Ambassador here has considered that he has visited us, and he has seen the good reforms that we have embarked on to improve the quality and the standards of our correctional facilities. But it would be desirable that more of you come on board and help us, especially in infrastructural development. Why is that important? Because it will speak to some of those recommendations of the Maraga report. Because majority of the recommendations in the Maraga report spoke to institutional reforms in terms of infrastructure and quality. Why is that relevant to you? Because you can be our guests. And indeed, some of your fellow citizens are our guests. And that is why we see a lot of letters from the embassies requesting if they can visit us. Some of your citizens are your guests. What kind of standard of living would you like to find when you come to correctional facilities? I believe you would like to see high standards or humane standards, standards that are international standards. And so I would humbly request that more of the development partners come on board and work with us, not only in terms of capacity building for training of the prison and probation officers, but also to help us in infrastructure development. Thank you.
Thank you. Maybe as we wind up, I will want a minute from my POA, then the NPS. Yeah.
Thank you very much, PS, for this opportunity. Thank you very much. We want to take this opportunity, please, to thank you, the development partners present here today, for all the support they've given to the National Police Service, the IPOA, and the reforms that have been going on for several years. Without the support of development partners, we would not have achieved the milestones that we've achieved. And we worked very closely with them, most of them have said, with the High Commissioner for UK. We worked with the UN, particularly the Office of the High Commissioner on Human Rights. We worked with Reinvent. I can see Jackie here, and many of you seated here today. We've also engaged with the UNDP, and we look forward to continuing support. I'll keep my comments short. The human rights piece in this country and securing it is very important. Because like the Solicitor General said, if you have security and the observance of human rights in this country, then we attract development. Everybody wants to live in a peaceful environment where their human rights are respected. And human rights in the policing place is particularly very important. So we continue to seek for that support, enhance it, don't cut it down, so that we can reduce the clientele to my colleague, the Commissioner General of Prisons, and we can lessen the burden for our PS correctional services. That can be done when we work with the whole government approach. We support the human rights space in policing. We ensure our country is secure. We continuously develop capacity for our officers. I'm happy with this framework, PS, because it will give us an opportunity to participate probably in one of those aspects that do not require a lot of funding in curricular development for the members of the service, so that we can train them on the mandate of IPOA. And once they understand that mandate, I'm sure we contribute to expanding human rights space in this country, development, and peace for all of us. Thank you very much. We continue pleading for your continued support so that we can reduce the burden for my colleagues seated here with me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's the Chair for Independent Police Oversight Authority. Yes, and yes, let's have a look there.
Thank you, sir. On behalf of the National Police Service, I want to relay apologies for the Inspector General, and above all to appreciate the Head of State for coming up with this task force that has come up with these recommendations for the 3 agencies. Indeed, we are very appreciative as the National Police Service, and above all, we want to appreciate the support that we have received from the Ministry and from our development partners. It has not begun today. It has been, they have been working with us through this journey of reforms, and we are happy that they are still here and ready to support us. We want to appreciate you, and we are ready to work with you through this journey to be able to realize the implementations of the recommendations from the task force. Those few remarks, say thank you, and God bless you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So I want us to give all of us a big round of applause. As we come to the end of this engagement, I just wanted to highlight a few of the next steps, but also try to respond to 1 or 2 issues or interventions that have been raised. One is with regards to where does training fall. And if you look at the 4 strategic areas, whether you're looking at leadership, oversight and accountability, when you look at institutional capacity development, issues on human resource, and even aspects of operational preparedness. In each of those key strategic intervention areas, there has to be capacity that must be built. And from here, we will be sharing the entire document that has been captured in the strategic framework, so that then you are able to isolate the specific ingredients that goes into each of those 4 areas of strategic intervention. And just like I've mentioned, a lot of work is already going on, but then a lot more needs to be done. And hence the importance of this conversation that we are having. I know that separately we've also had bilateral discussions and engagements. We will continue to encourage those bilateral engagements and conversations within the context of what we have in the strategic framework. And given that a number of institutions or agencies are either relooking at their strategic plans and coming up with new programs that probably will be running for the next 3-4 years, it's a very opportune moment that as we work on those strategic plans, as we work on those programs, then we onboard what we've captured in the strategic framework, so that nothing is lost or is left behind. The other point is that for a number of cases, we have ongoing security partnerships. We call them compact or whichever name. We just need to see how best to integrate them in the context of what we are doing within the reforms space. Now, we are looking forward to doing a formal launch in July, where we expect His Excellency the President to preside over it, and there will be no better time to do it than then, when we have already concretized the various interventions and the various aspects of what each of our partners will have committed to by then. I know there's already what is committed, but then between now and then we'll be able to also follow through on a number of other commitments that are outstanding. Lastly, is that we, from the level of the National Steering Committee, we have our Cabinet Secretary, who then now progresses a lot of whatever is considered contentious or outstanding for purposes of ensuring that all these recommendations see the light of day. So once again, allow me to appreciate each and everyone in a special way for honoring our invitation and for accepting to partner with us in the implementation of this strategic framework. Asanteni sana, and God bless you. The discussions have been around the ongoing reforms within the National Police Service, the National Youth Service, and the Kenya Prison Service. We've also had in this roundtable engagement the heads of all these agencies that are involved in the reforms, together with my PS colleague within the ministry, PS Biako, in charge of correctional services, as well as the Solicitor General, Honorable Shadrach Mose. Maybe in a nutshell is that upon assuming office, His Excellency the President did set up the task force on these reforms that was headed by retired Chief Justice Maraga. And the task force completed its assignment and submitted recommendations from that assignment to His Excellency the President last year in November. Subsequently, the President did direct that we needed to move fast to implement those recommendations. In total, there are a total of 598 recommendations. To date, we have begun the implementation of those recommendations, particularly the ones that needed administrative action with no monetary requirement tied to them. But then there are another set of recommendations, so one that requires policy and legislative reforms, which we have also begun the work in terms of drafting the various legislations to address the concerns in the three services. Then there was also the recommendations that required financial input, which again, there have been commitments both by the government and our partners to be able to finance and support. Then the last set of recommendations are just a few group of recommendations that requires further policy guidance and direction. So where there are probably conflict between different agencies that are involved. But that just constitutes 4% out of the nearly 600 recommendations that came out of the task force. So today's gathering was basically to appraise our development partners on the strategic framework that we have worked on over the last couple of months with their input and the input from a number of the agencies involved, as well as independent institutions within government. And a number of those independent institutions include the Salaries and Remunerations Commission, the Public Service Commission, as well as IPOA and all the other concerned entities. In terms of what has gone into this process is that there are four main aspects of the strategic plan. So there are issues to do with human resource that we need to deal with. There are issues to do with operational readiness and logistical actions that we need to take. Then there are issues around capacity building, and lastly there are issues around leadership, oversight and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you, Bwana PS.
Yeah.
A question. My name is Gatete Njoroge from Citizen TV. There has been a question of whether part of these reforms have been considered in the current budget, the one that is being debated, 2024-2025. I don't know if we'll have some of the recommendations being considered in the budget, specifically the welfare of the service members.
Yes, so a number of these reforms are already been taken care of. First, I've mentioned that there are some reforms that only requires administrative action, and the relevant institutions are already dealing with those. So for example, when you look at what administrative reforms are being done in the National Police Service, the IG and the team have already instituted some of those. A number of them could be issues to do with transfers, to do with the issues of working out on the mechanics, on the instruments for human resource. We've had already ongoing conversations with the salaries and remuneration, which directly addresses the issues around welfare and career progression. And there are issues around the modernization of the services. So a case in point is that within the National Police Service, there's already within the budget a budget line of about 6.5 billion that has been committed in the current financial year and of course in the next financial year as part of helping to address that. Now, the ongoing discussions around the budget would not necessarily stop us or be a hindrance to the implementation of some of these reforms, because as we go along in unpacking the recommendations, where there will be need to make strategic interventions, there are existing provisions within the financing mechanism to be able to address that. And then our development partners have already committed quite a good chunk of resources in helping us roll out these reforms. And what we have done today would also help them in terms of their forward planning for additional commitments that we expect. Thank you. Thank you. So we expect that within the framework of what the Salaries and Remuneration Commission is doing, I think they're in the fourth cycle of the salary review, and they've already made the recommendations. So I would not say exactly when, but we expect that to happen within this year. Thank you.